All right, good morning, everybody. We'll call the meeting to
Morning.
order. This is the Traffic Advisory Committee meeting for the town of Wakefield for July 25th, 2025. I would ask that everybody remain muted until asked to speak. And if you are asked to speak, just state your name and address and speak clearly as closed captioning and transcription is enabled. The meeting is being audio and video recorded. It will be posted to the town's website along with WCAT. Item number 2 is attendance. Myself, Joseph Anderson from the police department. Dan and Lois Benjamin. Good morning, Dan. Is Lois there? All right. Joe Conway, DPW director.
Morning, sir.
Morning. Kevin Gill, interim town administrator. Kevin, you on? I don't know if Kevin could make it today. Matt Keeley. Matt, you on? Not sure if Matt's joining us or not late. I see Bill Renault, town engineer.
Morning, Joe.
And that is it. We do not, we have an open position for our resident representative, as John Connors had an adjustment in his work schedule, so he's unable to attend our meetings going forward. And he gives his thanks for his time here with Traffic Advisory. So, Bill, it's something we should probably get posted sooner rather than later, so we can fill that position. All right. Item number 3, the Pledge of Allegiance. Dan, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Okay. I'm sorry to say I don't have an American flag with me. I'm up here in Canada, but we can go with imagine a flag.
Sounds good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for your service as always. All right, and item number 4 is the approval of the meeting minutes from the March 21st, 2025 meeting. Any questions on that? And do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Moved by Bill Renault, second. Dan, could you second that for us?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the meeting minutes for March 21st, 2025 have been approved. Public engagement. If anybody has anything for public engagement that is not an agenda item, I know we did have a couple of submissions. I see a few people here, which is good. So I don't have to read their submissions into the record. They can give us a little more context personally, which is great. Saves me from talking and people listen to my voice for any longer than they have to. But if anyone has anything that isn't an agenda item, because we will get to those others during the agenda item. So if you'd raise your hand and we'll give you 3 minutes to speak. Anybody for public engagement that's not part of the agenda? All right, I see no hands, so we'll move on to item number 6. Item number 6A is reviewing speed data for Merriam Street and determine our next course of action in the traffic calming application there. So I will pull up what we have for Merriam Street. Bill and I have been working on this for a little bit with Danielle from Merriam Street. I'm not sure if Danielle's on or not, but we have been talking back and forth through email quite a bit. So I think about a year ago, Bill, we had this traffic calming application. We had T and Bond, I believe, do a study. The initial study, southbound, came in an 85th percentile speed of 32.6 miles per hour. The northbound side was 33.7 miles an hour, so almost 33 and 34 miles an hour. We did approve a phase 1, if you will, traffic calming measure, which is the flashing speed alert signs. So those were installed. Those have been up there for a decent period of time now. We pulled the data from Urban SDK, and the speeds have gone down, not as much as obviously the residents would like and we would like, but we do see a bit of a reduction. So the southbound is now 30 miles an hour compared to almost 33. and the northbound is 29 miles an hour compared to almost 34. So a decent reduction there. I think there's some challenges there with no sidewalks and it being a narrow street, and that 29, 30 miles an hour is still pretty fast when you're walking or standing in your driveway. So they'd like to see this advanced to possibly a stage two measure, which Bill and I have talked about. We looked over T and Bond's recommendations. They would recommend next, if approved by us, and in engineering would be something like a chicane, some type of a physical change to the roadway in order to slow traffic down. We see this similarly with on-street parking sometimes. So sometimes we have neighborhoods that complain that there's too many cars parked on the road and it causes people to have to wait and go around parked cars. This is actually an intentional way to do just that with engineering. So I always remind them that you may see more speeding if we eliminate on-street parking. So I don't think there's any parking restrictions on Miriam Street, but I don't know how comfortable people are parking the car on Miriam Street either, because it is a bit of a cut through when the train gates come down. So I'm not sure that I'm convinced the chicane would be best suited for Miriam Street. I don't really know what the answer would be. I would say that, in my opinion, 4 or 5 miles an hour over the speed limit with no real documented crash history might be a little heavy to do some structural changes to the roadway right now. We have other roads in town that are 10 plus miles an hour over the speed limit for the 85th percentile speed with documented crash history, and we haven't modified the roadway there. So I'm not sure, Bill, on the engineering side, do you think we run with the speed alert signs for longer, or do you think we try a temporary rollout of a chicane or something like that and see how it works? I know they did it on Woodland Road in Melrose, and I know that the kids stole a lot of the sandbags and signs and cones there, so they were constantly putting them back up, which was a challenge. And I don't know how successful it was because they ended up taking them down, and there's been no permanent changes there. So that was another similar cut through street, ironically in Greenwood on the Melrose side of things. But any thoughts on it, Bill?
I mean, personally, I mean, I think we're within 5 miles an hour of the speed limit. That's typically our guide. We saw reductions with the measures we've used. So, I mean, at this point, I think where we are makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't be necessarily supportive of going with like a speed table or any of those types of things, because just the way the road's laid out, there's not good spots for them. I mean, typically we'd want to do that like an intersection or something like that. That doesn't seem to make any sense. And Time Bond also didn't really recommend that. Yeah, I mean, you can honestly try the chicanes out just with the residents that are there, just staggering their parking. I mean, that would do the same exact thing. So, I mean, personally, I think the solution that we deployed has worked, and I'm kind of comfortable with where we are right now.
I'd like to maybe see the speed alert signs stay out for a little longer.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm not saying take those down. I think that makes sense.
Maybe we do another 3 months and see where the data set comes in, and go from there. I mean, if it's going backwards, maybe for whatever reason we have a reduction and it goes backwards. I think another factor for this street is the commuter traffic. So we have kind of a weird back to normal where some people are commuting, some are working from home, some are a little bit of both. And I think as people commute more, and the train is used more and people get irritated, stuck in traffic, you're going to see a little bit more cut through traffic, which may change these numbers back. They may regress. So maybe we revisit this in about 90 days, Bill, and see where we're at. Keep the speed alert signs up there, and go from there. Anybody else from Traffic Advisory have any thoughts or recommendations on this agenda item? All right. I'm going to open it up to the public if there's anybody from the Miriam Street neighborhood that has any thoughts or comments or suggestions. Just raise your hand and state your name and address. Anybody from Miriam Street or that neighborhood? All right, so I think we'll do that. We'll table this for a future meeting. We'll keep the speed alert signs up, and we'll see if it continues to either maintain or improve. And we have been doing traffic enforcement there as well, so we'll see if that combination of those efforts continue in a good direction.
Sounds good.
Okay, moving on to item number 6B. This is a traffic calming request from Greenwood Street and Spring Street neighbors. This has been a traffic issue that's come up, at least on my end, quite a bit over the years. I think we spoke about it at traffic advisory in the past. We've done a bunch of different things there. I mean, that's another cut through from Melrose, and I know Melrose has had issues on their end that they've tried to do different things to address, and we've done some tree trimming at the stop sign there. That's kind of a classic rolling stop, and in some cases, not even a rolling stop. I think the signal department has upgraded the flashing red light there to try to make that more noticeable, but this is kind of similar to Chestnut and Prospect Street, where we've had issues where it's a pretty basic four-way stop, like anywhere else, but for some reason, either people aren't paying attention or the neighborhood just lends itself to people just thinking they can kind of cruise right through. So no matter what degree of enforcement, including a big speed alert sign that we can put messages on, we've had messages on it that say stop sign ahead and out there, and it might get a little bit better when we're out there consistently, and then as soon as we leave it kind of goes back to the way it was. So I'm not sure what we can do. I think we should look at least the speed data and see if there's anything we can possibly do on the speed end of things. Morning, Matt. So Matt Kelly just signed in. How you doing?
Glad that got that all fixed. I don't know what was happening, just wouldn't let me in the meeting.
All right, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't miss too much. We approved minutes from March 21st. There was no public engagement. Traffic calming on Miriam Street. We determined we're going to keep the speed alert signs there for at least the next 3 months, table that and see if things continue to improve or at least stay the same. And now we're at traffic calming for Greenwood and Spring Street.
Great.
Um,
Yeah, I joined on my phone for a couple minutes, so I
Okay.
heard the Merriam Street stuff.
Perfect. So I think we should look at the speed data set for both streets there and see if there's anything on the speed end. I think there's always going to be people that disregard red lights and stop signs and yield signs. This is really at a rate that's more than the normal. But my point is, if we can at least lower the speed, if there is a speeding problem, if somebody does decide to intentionally disregard the controls there, the hope is that the crash, if there is one, is less significant. I think you need to look at both, but I don't know how to get people to stop any more than a four-way stop sign. So maybe there's something on the engineering end. Maybe the residents there have suggestions, and I'd be all ears for that. So I'm going to go through our committee first and see if there's any thoughts, and then I'll open it up. I see a couple of residents here, so I'm glad that you guys joined, and see if you have any suggestions or just if you could speak a little more to it. So, Bill, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, so obviously there's a pretty long history here, right, of folks running the stop signs. So, I'm thinking maybe a couple options if we were to try to increase the size of the stop signs. I mean, that's one thing that can be done, or maybe even adding secondary stop signs on the other side of the street. So folks in each approach have, essentially two stop signs that are larger that show to stop. That's another option of something to do that would be fairly low cost and easy to deploy, which I think would make sense.
Okay. Yep. I think we did that Chestnut Street, didn't we? Did we do the double stop signs there? Or we were thinking.
We were talking about doing it. I don't think we did, but
Yeah, I think we did. We talked about that, but I'm not sure. Not sure why that didn't happen there. But that's a.
But I'm thinking between the additional signage, plus we still have the obviously the blinking red light there.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's at least to try something like that first. That would probably be my recommendation if we're seeing that folks are consistently running it.
Okay. Matt, do you have anything for us?
Has there been any discussion of just having just one of those flashing stop signs? Just with the LEDs around the perimeter of the stop
Well,
sign?
there's already a red, flashing red signal there. So it's kind of like, how many more flashing lights can you have? You know, I mean, I don't know. I suppose we could. Suppose we could. I mean, we had at Chestnut and Prospect. It was actually in a Ring doorbell video. There was a bad crash there. Out after we had deployed those signs for some time, and you could see in the video the stop sign was flashing, and they still went right through and hit a car, broadside of a car there that had stopped and then started to proceed through the intersection. So I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith in flashing signs anymore. I think they were a good thing at the beginning. I think they've become kind of white noise to some people, which is unfortunate. But anybody else from traffic advisory? All right, I will open it up to. We'll start with Sean, as I see Sean here. Sean, do you have anything for us?
Yes, thank you. Sean Reynolds, 41 Spring Street. I had to find the mute button or the unmute button. I agree with your sentiment on the blinking stop signs. And I kind of feel that way about larger stop signs, and that people know that there's a stop there. There's lines in the ground, there's stop signs, you put the reflective tape, you got a blinking light, and people just don't stop. What I would be really interested in, I know you had the speed trailer out a couple of different times, which measures the speed on approach. I think it would also be interesting to see the speed on exit of the intersection. Like I slow down and I roll through and then I hammer it and I'm going 40 by the time I'm like 6 houses down the road. There's certainly plenty of examples of folks doing that. The intersection is not 100% square, like a 90-degree angle, and the eastbound side of Spring Street, like on the southeast corner, it's sharper and there's bushes and it's visibly difficult to see around there. If you're coming from, certain directions, coming south on Greenwood Street, you can see the whole intersection. So a lot of times people just don't see anybody. Or I've been at the intersection numerous times when I'm slowing down to stop because it's a stop sign, and the person coming the other direction realizes that I'm stopping, and then they just lift off and keep going. So I'm with you in the notion of, you can have all the lights and signs in the world and people just don't stop. So that's why I think my wife Bree is on the call and put us on the agenda, because I think there needs to be something more physical to remind people that there's a need to stop at the intersection. Had a couple of accidents, including a rollover pretty recently, and the kids are out all the time, all year long. There's a bus stop there. It's pretty dangerous.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Bree, do you have anything for us? Good morning.
Morning. Thank you. Yes, I agree with everything you said so far. I actually disagree with Sean about the larger signs, though, not the flashing ones, but just larger stop signs. I think if it's a relatively inexpensive cost, it'd be worth trying.
It's an easy one.
Yeah, easy, quick thing. Not the only thing, of course, but something like that just to at least start the process.
Even if it's just a few honest people that just are unfamiliar with the neighborhood, I think it's
yeah. And I've seen people who are clearly unfamiliar with four-way stops. Like they just genuinely look confused. I know we can't help everyone learn how to do a four-way stop, but it's just a terrible mix of, negligence, confusion, just aggressive driving, all of it we see. I'm not sure if there are other examples of things that you've seen where there are two very straight roads at intersections like this, because the roads are both so straight that I think that really plays into the speed that we see as you're coming up and leaving both ways on the intersection on Greenwood and Spring. It's very straight in all directions, aside from the angle that Sean was talking about, but the literal roads have no curves. So I think people just feel like they can kind of keep going at speed. They don't have to slow down for curves or anything. So yeah, I think another thing that I was thinking of is there is crosswalk paint, but it is very old and worn out. You can barely see that it's there. So just another visual idea for having the crosswalks repainted, and not just there's two horizontal lines on each side now, but if we do the bars in between too, just to make it feel more officially like an intersection. I think that would be helpful. I know Derek Russell is also our neighbor. He's right on the intersection, and he has more history with the area. Was here when they put the four-way stop in, and also has said that it's definitely gotten worse since then. And also, just one more thing to encourage the speed monitoring, like on Miriam. If that speed reduction has helped, that might be interesting to see one of those, flashing things that tells you how fast you're going in our area too. And maybe on both sides, like Sean was saying, the exit, it's like people think it's a runway and they're taking off and just go extremely fast through the intersection. So it would be great to let people know how fast they're going. Me personally, I often don't realize, like on Miriam, I travel that every day, and that speed monitor really helped me realize how fast I was going. But thank you for thinking about this too.
Yeah, it helps the honest driver that's just unaware. I think some of the other folks.
Yeah, there might not be much to help those folks who are going to do it no matter what. But
well,
I think the line painting stuff. I mean, that's. I mean, our new standard is to do the ladder style anyway. So I think we definitely can commit to doing that. And like I said, I'd be fine. At least increasing the size of the signs to start with. I don't see that as a heavy lift either. So.
Derek Russell, good morning.
Good morning, Derek Russell, 43 Spring Street. More of a question, Mr. Anderson. Did you just reference that there's existing speed data involving that intersection?
So we have a new program, new within the last year, that we've been utilizing. It's a telemetrics driven database, and provides us, I don't want to say real time, because we get the data about 30 to 60 days out. So we get about a couple months back, but as real time as we can get speed, volume. It's bi-directional now, which is a new addition they just they provided. So for Sean and Bree, great points. We'll look at both. We can actually look at segments of the street and see, where we're seeing the speed, what times a day. Those are things that we can kind of dive into a little further and take a look at.
But that's nothing we have right now.
We have access to it, so I have to pull the data and see exactly where we're at. And it'll probably be a couple of months ago, but I think that would still be a pretty fresh. It'd probably be a good data set because it's when school's in session, and I think we would have some good information there. So that's something that we would definitely look at.
How does that get recorded?
It's all through telemetrics, so OnStar and GPS and all that. It's harvested by this company, Urban SDK. It's anonymously transmitted, like everything else with your phones that you don't opt in or out of. Same thing with the telemetrics in your car, and they provide volume, speed. There's a few other new additions to their program that they provide, and it helps give us a good snapshot. So we've been utilizing it on the enforcement end to see, we can't be on every street at every time, and people see speeding and they don't really know exactly when the worst offenders are, so we can best deploy our assets. So we look at certain times a day, and there's been streets that we've never had complaints about, but they show the highest speeds and the most risk for traffic crashes. So we obviously want to address those too. So it's helped us on that end. It's helped us with traffic advisory to see, does a problem exist? Should we do a more in-depth study, and then should we deploy some countermeasures there? So it's been good. All right, anybody else on this agenda item? Anybody from traffic advisory have any closing thoughts on this? So I think, Bill, I will pull the numbers for Spring and Greenwood and see where we come in at. If it looks like something that's worthy of a traffic calming application, because I hate to have you guys go and do any more legwork than necessary. If it looks like it's something we can make an impact on potentially with things like speed alert signs or anything like that, I will let you guys know, and we'll advance that forward. I think the larger stop signs are a low cost, almost no cost item for us to at least do in the interim. I know that the DPW has been doing a bunch of line painting throughout town, so we'll find out where in the queue that intersection is. And as Bill stated,
just prioritize. Yeah, we can just prioritize it, make them get out there. That's not a problem. So we can commit to getting that done, say in the next couple of weeks.
And we'll go from there. And And in the interim too, if I see some high speeds there, I can always deploy our speed trailer there. I'll talk to Bill because I don't want to skew the results of any other formal study that we might do there by putting the speed trailer out. So we will be in discussion before that happens. But it's something we can do in the interim if we think that that's something that would be helpful before we get the actual semi-permanent solar powered, in both directions. And if you think of anything else or anything else comes up in the meanwhile, just email us and we will go from there.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you. Next is item number 7, request for a stop sign. This is following a traffic calming application for the Pine, Warren, and Lee Street intersection, an area. Follows a traffic calming application where we didn't have the numbers to deploy anything for traffic calming. The numbers came in kind of where we thought they would, some speeding cars at unfortunate peak hours, but overall nothing that's consistent enough for us to prioritize this street over others that have some documented speeding. So, Bill, you had you'd done a little bit more homework on some possibilities with crosswalks, and as much as we wanted
Yep.
a crosswalk there from Lee across Pine, because that's a little bit of a pedestrian generator to the school. There wasn't really a place that worked logistically.
Yeah, so we had site distance issues at Lee Street that wouldn't really allow for a crosswalk to be done. So what we did is, obviously with the site distance issue being a problem, I asked our consultant to take another look at it from the standpoint of potentially stop sign warrants at the area because of the poor site distance at Warren and at Lee. So they came back with a recommendation that was in the packet for everyone. And if I can share my screen. Okay, can you see the plan right now?
Yep.
Yep, so proposed basically kind of a little bit of a weird configuration, but 4-way stop sign between Warren, Pine, and Lee. We'd have some advanced warning signs as
Bill,
well.
any chance you can increase the size? Sorry.
Increase the size.
Is there like a,
Is it tiny?
Yeah, it's just the
It's very tall and skinny.
okay, there you go.
Very tall and skinny.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Can I-
good. That's
Let me try
better.
that.
Thank
Is
you.
that better?
Yes.
All right, there we go. All right, so let me see if I can pan. Can I pan? There we go. All right, does that work, folks? Everyone see kind of what we're looking to do? So also some vegetation trimming around the curve south of Warren Ave, but basically it missed the stop sign warrant due to the site distance. So we think it makes sense to deploy in this area. I wouldn't still recommend the crosswalk just because folks in general think they're safer when they're in a crosswalk. And, we could very well have folks blowing through these stop signs too, like we have on other locations that we just talked about. So I'd be hesitant to install a crosswalk there just because of the poor site distance. So, so this is kind of what I'm proposing at this point, and my staff, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any other comments or input from traffic advisory?
I think we have one from Elena.
I just want to go through the committee first and see if there's
Oh, I'm sorry.
see if there's anything here, and then we'll hit.
Bill, could you just pan down a little bit? Is there a stop sign ahead for the northbound? Yeah,
Yep.
okay, great.
Sorry, those are stop sign ahead signs that are not existing, correct? That was my question.
Yeah, these are all new.
No. The stop sign aheads, though. I know the stop signs are new, but the stop sign ahead.
Yeah, those aren't, they're not there now. They're going to be proposed to be installed. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, Elena, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you. I'm good. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. So I'm a resident at 17 Pine Street, so just a little bit north on the plan. And I've lived here for over 20 years. I fully agree that Pine Street is a cut through. It has, I would say, kind of a perceived speeding problem. People fly by my house, but I know, they're probably not really going more than 32 miles an hour, but it just feels fast. I never let my kids play in the front yard when they were little. It's definitely a street with some issues. but I've been kind of watching all the discussion as it's gone on about the crosswalks, and we've had neighbors come asking to sign petitions and such. And so I have a few comments. I will keep it under 3 minutes.
Sure.
But for starters, I think the configuration as proposed is not going to work. I think the distance between Lee and Warren for that to function as all one intersection it's about 150 feet. I think it's too far. We all drive through the 5-way intersection at Oak, Greenwood, and Green Street pretty much daily in our neighborhood. And that intersection doesn't function as one, as everybody knows. I know it's been discussed what to do there as well, but it doesn't function well as one intersection because it's too far. And I think the biggest issue here is going to be the people coming north on Pine Street, coming up to the stop sign at Warren. They're not going to really be paying attention to people coming down Lee Street 150 feet away and knowing that who was there first. There's going to be a lot of confusion about, queuing. And so that's my biggest concern about this specific configuration, as well as the stop sign proposed in front of the house when you're coming southbound on Pine Street. That's where our neighbors park every day. They've parked there every day for pretty much the last 10 years. And I'm just concerned about them. They have a tandem driveway, 3 cars. The third car is on the street. They have a son who lives with them in his 20s. So his car is typically out on the street. But it's mainly a safety thing. I just don't think it's going to work the way it's configured. I could see possibly a 3-way stop at Warren and Pine and just a stop sign at the end of Lee just to kind of try to get people to stop on the way down the hill. I will say both Lee and Kendrick in this neighborhood, because they're a hill coming into Pine Street, people jut way out into Pine Street before they make a turn or right before they even look. Pretty much every day on my way home, I'm real careful at Kendrick and Lee because I know people jut out there. So maybe a stop sign at the bottom of those streets would be a little helpful. But I think at Pine, the only way to add stop signs in this neighborhood, if at all, is to put them just a 3-way at Warren. But I have a couple of other items that I just want to bring to everybody's attention. Pine Street itself, if the goal is traffic calming, I know stop signs aren't really the best traffic calming measure. I know Eric and Bill have probably heard me mention this for over a decade now, but Pine Street has a lot of areas where the street is just pavement all the way from the center line out to the back of sidewalk. And I had tried hard when the street got paved in 2016-ish to get the berm and the grass strip added back in. There had been more berm and more grass strip when we moved in 20 years ago, and over time the plows kind of tore it up, and then each time that happens it just gets paved over. And it is very unsafe for pedestrians in the areas that don't have any grass strip because there's no delineation between the street and the sidewalk, and it is a school neighborhood. And I think in terms of traffic calming, if there was that visual barrier, if the street didn't look so wide and there was that visual barrier and also a place to plant some trees, it would make a big difference, I think, in just the narrower feeling of the road. And I think that would definitely slow people down. My other major concern is accessibility. So we have a neighbor right across the street from me. He is unfortunately paralyzed from the waist down. He's in a motorized wheelchair, and he has a child who goes to the Greenwood School. And he can't get from his house down to the school because of that intersection at Warren, at Pine and Warren, because when the sidewalk was redone, back when the paving was done, that corner was made even more narrow. It was already narrow, but now it's even worse. There's no accessible curb ramps there. There's no accessible ramps at Warren and Madison. And then that new sidewalk along Warren that no longer has a berm and a grass strip, which if you go way back in the aerial photos, you can see there used to be some semblance of berm and grass strip on that right-hand side of Warren all the way down to the Greenwood School. The new sidewalk that was poured I don't understand why that was done that way, but it is really a decrease in safety, in pedestrian safety, the way it was, that it was paved. So my personal opinion, if we're going to do anything, is a 3-way stop at Warren and Pine. fix the accessibility issues, make things a little more visible. Definitely the vegetation trimming is critical to that stop sign working coming northbound. And then try to do something about the streetscape coming up from Pittman and that whole area that has no berm and grass strip and no trees, and just try to get things visually tightened up a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Matthew Johnson. Good morning.
Hey guys, Johnson, 20 Warren Ave. So I'm right on the corner of Pine and Lee. I am, seconding everything that Elena said. That's huge. The fact that our neighbor is paralyzed and can't do that, that's secondary to what we're talking about today. However, the issue is the stop signs, that northbound stop sign, that corner is so blind, you're gonna wind up having rear end collisions because people are coming around that corner. They're gonna hit a stop sign right there. There's not gonna be any time for somebody to stop. They're just gonna plow into the back of them. I mean, that corner is basically you have not only a landscaping issue, but you have a geography issue because it's all ledge that sticks out, blocks the way. You've got people coming from Kendrick going that way. The hard thing is a four-way stop sign. It's just like Elena said about the other stop sign where it's so far apart, everybody's just going to blow through it. I really have serious concerns about the stop signs. I think our ultimate, measure where this is in a school zone, I don't know if it's technically within the school zone as far as measurement goes, distance from Greenwood, but it's such a highly trafficked area for 180 days. And it's such a family neighborhood where the kids are out riding their bikes and doing things like that. It's just something's got to be done. I'm thinking speed table might be the ultimate way to go. I've heard, speed table's not an option because of the plows, but every other town and around us seems to have speed tables. So I don't know why that wouldn't be an option. But getting down Warren Ave is a sketchy subject. I have a hard time crossing Pine Street from my house. I will not use our front steps. Our front steps are completely unsafe because of that blind corner. Like I've told my kids since the day they were born, do not go down these steps. It is way too dangerous. And that's actually where the 8-year-old almost lost his life because somebody came around the corner and hit him. I'm afraid to mow my lawn because of that corner. That corner is a significant problem. And I don't think putting a stop sign there is going to do anything. I think people are going to come around the corner, totally miss the stop sign and just blow through it at full speed. This is a more complicated thing just because of the lines of sight. Like Elena said, coming down that hill, I know going northbound, people try to get up the hill as fast as they possibly can, and they're going probably 45, 50 by the time they hit the hill in front of her house. Coming down the hill is easier going southbound, but that corner at Pine and Warren is the major issue.
Yeah, thank you. Andrea, you're next. Good morning, Andrew.
Hi, good morning. Andrea Schiavone, 29 Warren Ave. To reiterate what Matt said and to ground us, originally this project was brought forth because of the traffic and the amount of children and families trying to cross from the east side of Pine over towards the Greenwood School and the danger of making that crossover because of the visibility and the traffic on Pine Street. So for me, that is the solution. We are trying to find a solution for us to safely cross over that street. I would love to put it back to the traffic team to better understand when stop signs like this are put in, what are some of the benefits, positives, and negatives that you are seeing, and some things that we might have to mitigate in the future of stop signs. Like I understand people are saying this is going to take a long time for education, right? People are not aware of the stop signs. We could have accidents there. That's obviously not what we want, but you know, from an expert traffic perspective, is this the right solution?
All right, thank you. Anybody else on this agenda item? If you'd raise your hand. John, and I forget your wife's name. Good morning. If you could just unmute.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my wife is Dawn. So we are at 29 Pine Street. We're 32-year residents of Pine Street and
Raised 2 kids.
raised 2 children here. Nice to see our neighbors, especially Glenn.
Glenn's in there.
Yeah. So on average, we would estimate, we sit directly across from the bottom of the hill on Lee Street. And we have never seen anyone in our 32 years get hit by a car here, any accidents out in front of our house. So people have navigated the crossing of Lee to Pine without incident for 32 years. So, you know, if you estimate 15 crossings a day times 365 days times 32 years, you've got 175,000 crossings on that street without incident. So, yeah, and we make observations all the time of people crossing, traffic on the street.
It can get busy at times,
Oh,
at
yeah.
times.
And
And it's usually the times when people are going to work, coming home, going to school. It's always that time. I'm outside all the time. Anyone in my neighborhood knows that. I'm out there all the time. I see everything out there. And I have to say, during the day, it's quiet. But when you get those times when people are coming home from school, like I said, it does get busy. Some people, you know, the usual people that are speeding, usually everyone knows the cars. And that accident that happened with the boy over here in the woods, that was not a driver error. That was a child's error coming down the path there. That wasn't a driver error.
So we've seen all ages of people coming down the hill and crossing with ease. We've seen 4th graders on scooters by themselves coming down the bottom of the hill and crossing, looking left and right, and crossing without a problem. So yeah, it is a difficult street. There's no doubt about it. So what can be done? I mean, I would defer to the engineers, and especially Alana, given that she has firsthand knowledge of the street and has to drive it and live with it every day. So yeah, we would probably defer to her opinions.
But we also have a concern with the last meeting that we didn't know about, but then they wanted to put in a crosswalk here.
Oh yeah.
And the flow of water that comes down Lee Street and everything that we have at the end of our driveway and the front of our house from Lee Street, the flow of water would come right up onto the sidewalk. We only have one sidewalk. Everyone would be walking through tons of water if we had rain and snow and whatever.
Well, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Renault and Steve Mayo know that we were not, no one was notified of any of the 2 prior meetings. No one's input from the norths, from my house to my next door neighbors, to Gary next to them, to Alana. As far as I know, no one was asked for input on measures to be taken, on proposing. No one was invited to meet with, I believe it was Sergeant Anderson and Bill at the on-site meeting here. No notification at all. So it gives the impression that
Well, the crosswalk's no longer being considered,
Yeah.
at least in that form, and we did have quite a group there and a showing and an email group that consisted of uh, a good majority of the residents that had concerns, and that was one thing that came up. So we explored it. The crosswalk was explored, and it's been subsequently shot down. And this is something else we're considering. And
Yeah.
we have
Wasn't
your
aware of that. But
okay.
how were the emails obtained? Well, did I provide an email with the petition that Stephanie
It was
passed around?
it was a group of residents that emailed us.
Oh,
So,
okay.
all right. Well, thank you. We're going to go on to Glenn Sampson. I think he was here, and I'm not sure if he still is because I think he had another conflict, but he did provide a public participation form. So, Glenn, if you're on, I'd rather you give me your perspective in person. But if not, I'll read his submission into the record. I don't think he's here, so I'll
I
read
think
his.
he's muted. I think he's here. He's just muted.
Yeah, he did say he had something today that he may not be able to speak, depending on when we got to this agenda item. Glenn, can you hear us? Can you unmute?
How's that?
Is that you?
I'm here, baby. All right.
Perfect.
Sorry,
All right.
sorry about that. I'm not
So-
very computer savvy. Yeah, I can't say too much. I'm at work,
Awful
but
early to be calling me baby, Glenn. It's not even 10 o'clock.
oh
I need a coffee first, at least.
my gosh. I'll make it quick because I'm at work and it's proprietary stuff. So everything everybody's saying is awesome. Really excited. Really good news. I have a letter I gave to the lieutenant. My wife helped type it up. I won't read it right now because I really can't, but I'm not allowed. I don't want to say too much because I think the stop sign at Lee Street would definitely be helpful, even though they may not stop, but at least there'll be a warning to remind them to stop. And the sidewalk issue, man, there used to be a tree in front of my house a long time ago when we first moved in. They got ripped out, and then the road got kind of bumped out into the road a little, like some weird little asphalt thing. And it's never been changed. It's been a long time. It's been like that. So awesome sidewalks with curbs would be really nice. And yeah, John is very important. His accent was horrible, and he wants to be outside. I get emotional thinking about it, but I won't get into that. But so sidewalks would be very helpful. But the proposed stop sign issue, Elaine is correct. It's way too, it's just like a runway. It'll just give them a launching pad for Warren to go even faster. And if the people on Lee Street are assuming the people are stopping, it might make things worse. So yeah, child safety is important. A lot of people love their kids, very much so. Very grateful for you guys talking, and that's all I have to say.
All right, Glenn, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Anybody else that has not spoken on this agenda item, if you could raise your hand. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to members of traffic advisory to discuss. I'll just start off by saying that, we have concerns presented to us all the time by individuals and groups, and we have dozens upon dozens of submissions, and we do the best we can to make sure that they gather as many people that may be in favor of us looking into potential solutions. And the first one was the crosswalk. That was the main concern, was cars go a little fast. There's some blind spots. It's tough to see. We want to get our kids to school safe. So we looked into a crosswalk, and that didn't really pan out for a bunch of engineering and logistic issues. Next, we have a series of stop signs. Engineering, to their credit, sent their engineers out and looked and tried to see what can we do. Is there a stop sign issue? Is a sightline visibility issue? What can we do to make this safer? And I agree with the vegetation trimming. I agree with, as far as the right of way, I believe that Pine Street really has the right of way, and that anything intersecting should be under a stop control. I don't really agree that we should be adding stop signs to Pine Street itself. Part of the reason is this, or speed tables for that matter, and this is my issue with speed tables and stop signs in short distances. We just had a potential traffic calming application from Greenwood Street and Spring Street. And if you heard Sean Reynolds' concern, it was, can we see what the speeds are leaving the stop sign? The people that slow down or actually do come to a stop, depending on where that street's located and how much of a cut through it is and a bunch of other factors, we see an increase of speeds after people do go over speed humps, after people do come to a stop because they're irritated, they want to get to where they're going because they're late, or whatever the factors are, especially when they're cut through neighborhoods. So would we be creating a condition where it's actually worse? And Andrew asked, what are some of the things we're going to have to be concerned about, if stop signs do get installed? I think there's two concerns. One is that they don't work and they put people under a false sense of security that, oh, there's a stop sign there, and people don't stop because either they're used to the old way, the road geometry just doesn't support it. It's a type of roadway where people just kind of go on autopilot, which we've seen. We see it at Greenwood and Spring. I don't know why people don't stop for that stop sign, but they don't. They're in their own world. There's just something about the conditions there that create it, and I can't explain it. But I would hate to create a worse condition where a fourth grader on a scooter says, "Oh, there's a stop sign there, so I'm safe to cross," and they're not. And I know Andrea's goal is, I think you've caught a little bit of fire for trying to do the right thing and keep kids safe. I don't think your heart was in the wrong place at all, trying to gather people that, were also shared your concerns. It's just how do we do it and what works for this neighborhood? And each neighborhood's a little different and present their own challenges. And I don't know that there's a solution right now for it, but I don't think that means that we have to stop looking into potential solutions. And I think that Elena brings up a very valid one with the potential of whether it's curbing or sidewalks or what, that's really Bill and his team to figure out logistically. There's drainage issues, there's a whole, and then there's funding too, right? Like there's 1,000 things in town I'd love to see, and everything has a different priority rank. And we have streets that have documented crash histories and 85th percentile speeds that are 10 or 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, and those are in queue, right? So, your neighborhood's no less important, but there's only so much money to go around, and there's only so much engineering we can do in one fiscal year, and and all of that. So I think that it would be great if Bill and his team could look at any type of improvements there to the sidewalks or berms or something that, as Elena said, delineates the roadway. I think I can picture a few streets, one being Salem Street, when that was redone and there was nice tall granite curbing and nice fresh line painting. It changed it. There's something about it that you perceive as a motorist when there's actually a defined roadway. Nothing changed about the width, nothing changed about where the lines were, but there's something about redefining a roadway and having it be, I don't know, just a little bit more visible that just slows traffic down and keeps people a little bit more in line, at least the honest ones. So I don't know, from my perspective, I think the vegetation is something important to address regardless. I think if we do any stop signs, it should be at the intersecting streets of Warren and Lee, because those are the ones that should be stopping anyway. And moving forward, if it is at all possible for Bill and his team to look into, whether it's berm, whether it's curbing, whether it's sidewalks, something to help on that end. Uh, it's uh, it's troubling that there are people that are in motorized wheelchairs that can't get their kids to school. That I hate to hear that. Um, there's a lot of other streets in town that have the same concerns, same issues, and it's tough to address them all. But I don't think stop signs in all these locations really makes sense at this time. And I think that engineering just tried to look at whatever they could to give us some options, and that's why we vet this out in public and we get perspective from residents, and we make our decisions from there. And even when we agree as a committee, it goes before town council, and then there's more chance for public participation and to maybe catch some people that didn't come to our meetings or have had time to let it sit and think about it. But it would be a no vote for me at this point. What would be a yes vote is the vegetation reduction. If engineering and the committee agree, maybe stop controls on Warren and Pine, strike that Warren and Lee, and then to explore a way to create some type of sidewalk or curbing or something along that road. But I know that there's 1,000 different challenges when it comes to engineering and logistics there. So that would my recommendation would be to at least explore it. Bill, what are your thoughts?
Well, just to be clear, the proposal is from our consultant, so just keep that in mind. This is it met the warrant for site distance, so it's not being used as a traffic calming measure. There's a legit site distance issue if you're trying to pull out of those streets, so that's why those are warranted. So just to make that clear, the idea of narrowing the road, I totally agree. It makes sense. That should have been done though during the paving process. I mean, I don't see us spending money right now jumping out there to do that, especially when folks are using it as parking areas. I mean, that's what these wider sections are, your neighbors using them for parking. So, I mean, those folks would definitely want to be involved in that conversation. The idea of the intersection and the at Warren and the ramps and all of that, 1000%, I think that makes a ton of sense. And you know, I think the road in that section is pretty poor too. That's something I could look to do in the near term as a fix, and I think it makes a ton of sense. We also have the retaining wall that's, you know, along Pine Street that's starting to fail as well. And we've had some complaints from the people that own that. So this was something I was looking to do as a capital project in the future anyway, and plan to look at this. So I can look to advance that section of it without a doubt. But I mean, again, the consultant recommended the stop signs for meeting a warrant. That's why I thought it made sense as well and solved the problem that we were looking at. But if we're not going to get the votes, we're not going to get the votes. But I mean, ultimately up the road, I don't see us making a ton of improvements, considering I'd be cutting up a road that just got recently paved to put in berm and curb, and then have to get every one of those folks that have parking areas to agree that they want that to happen. So that's a kind of a tough situation, I think.
Yep, Bill, Lieutenant Anderson, my fear is that if we don't work towards a solution to safely get our families and children across the street and over to the school, then this is going to just fall to the wayside and we're not going to revisit it. And so that's my fear, that, you know, we're hearing pushback, and I'm not saying that the stop signs are the right, potentially the right solution, but there needs to be a solution. And I'm hearing you say like there's other, you know, obviously there's other priorities, but we need to make this a priority as well. How do we do that?
Understood. And I think we've made it a priority to explore what the options are. And if we hear any other options, I'm fine with bringing it back to this committee to consider. But as of right now, I'm not hearing many good options without some other issues or potential issues that could exacerbate the problem or, you know, create a false sense of security. I want it to be the right fix. So this isn't like it just ends here because we explored a couple of issues. So I want you to know that, but that doesn't mean that finding a solution based on the particulars of these roads is going to be easy. That's just how it is right now. Matt Keeley, we're going to continue to go through members of traffic advisory though, and then I'll get to the two other hands that are raised.
Sure, I'll keep it brief so not to be redundant. I totally agree with what Joe and Bill have both said. One thing to just reiterate, Bill had mentioned that, you know, we were looking at the stop signs. The warrant is the sight distance, visibility, not a volume warrant. And one of the downsides of introducing an all-way stop control when volume warrants aren't met is that people become desensitized to it because they're always coming up to a stop sign and there's no other cars there, so they start to roll through the stop sign. I think you just lose the effectiveness of the stop sign. It kind of dwindles in low volume areas. So that's just one thing to consider.
And Bill, my apologies. I know you had sent some of your team out there for things, but I forgot that it was a TM bond recommendation and not coming from your engineers. So my apologies on that end.
No worries.
You guys have done so much throughout town that I can't keep it all straight. Some things, but Eric, you're off the hook for this one. All right. Any other members of traffic advisory before I kick it back to two other residents, and then we're going to move on as we have a heavy agenda today. All right, Dominique, good morning.
Hi, good morning. So I'm a new-ish resident from 33 Warren Ave. And I just want to say that since we moved there, I did see a lot of new family and new baby being born in that neighborhood, especially on Hill, on Furnace Circle. There's like kids all the time. And I want to make sure that those kids are safe. And to go back to what you say, Mr. Anderson, that people driving are in their own world, and I mean, they're on their phone. And there's a lot of high schooler in the morning going back. And I run a lot in that neighborhood, and I did see a lot of people on their phone. So they're not paying attention. And even though nothing happened for the past 32 year, that's great, but something happened last year. That kid was in an accident, so something happened, and more things could happen because of how the world changed, how we drive now. And yes, we're desensitized. Yes, there's phone, but there's more kids that, they don't think about adult on their phone. So I think it's very important to continue looking for a solution that hopefully will be okay with all neighbors, especially the one, on Pine and, Matt and Mr. Nixky. And, I know this is a tricky place, but I think we really need to find a solution. So that's what I want to say. And I have maybe one suggestion. I don't know if that would explore, but is there a way to put more sign, like without the stop maybe, but more sign of like dangerous intersection, lines like multiple lines on the Pine Street, where people will say, oh, what's going on here? And then they kind of slow down. I understand they might not slow down all the time, but something like eyes catchy where they have to be careful. Like there's a lot going on, like a tickly settle kind of thing. Yeah, something like where people will have a look at what's going on in that section, like between Warren and Lee. So.
All right, thank you. Elena, and then I'm going to go to Kathleen next.
Thank you. I'll be real quick. I just wanted to note, Bill, if we do ever have the funding to go toward some berm and some grass strips and planting, on my end of the street where we did successfully get it done during the paving, people still park on it. That's the nice thing about the berm instead of the curb. 90% of the time, there's nobody there, and it does the visual narrowing of the road. But when someone is parked, they just drive up onto the grass strip, which, we don't always love, but for the people who need to park their extra cars overnight, it still works. And
Yeah. I think my point was more just that the residents that are parking, they have their parking spot, right? So they're, I see your point, definitely, and I agree that it would be an improvement without a doubt. I definitely agree with that. What I was trying to say is just that the folks that already have a parking spot, they're not going to want to change that.
Yeah, I agree. So I was going to volunteer.
Balance,
If it ever becomes a potential reality, I'd be happy to try to work with my neighbors who do park up on the sidewalk and see if we can come to an agreement. So just volunteering to do that if there's ever funding to do it.
Right on. And I am going to look at Warren Street though. Just the road's falling apart. It makes sense at this point anyway. So that's a good spot for at least some investment. And then obviously the retaining wall and that intersection of Warren. So
yeah, and the curb
those I'll advance in the next couple of years.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Kathleen, next. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning, Kathleen 288 Wiley Place. I don't live in either of the neighborhoods that have been discussed, but I've been to a lot of these meetings, and over the last few years, there's a lot of the same complaints all over town. And just sitting here as a layperson and thinking outside of the box, is there like a physical reminder you can give? Like, is there a benefit to putting in rumble strips before stop signs, especially at these big intersections where you're saying people are just blowing through them? Like, is that something that ever gets done as a physical reminder that someone needs to stop, especially for those people that are, in their own world, or they're looking at their phone and they're just completely missing stop signs? I just don't know if that's anything that's ever done or if I sound kind of crazy. But then my other suggestion would just be potholes. because nobody likes driving fast over potholes. So
Well,
just
Bill, you're
go
not
out there and
off the
dig,
hook
just
for
dig some
repaving.
potholes and
So I need you at town meeting then, Ken. You come out and let
I will-
everybody
I
know
will
that we
be
don't need
there.
any money and we shouldn't be paving streets. That would be good.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I'm going to allow John just another minute, and then we do have to move on to our next agenda item because we have a heavy agenda. John?
Yeah, thank you. So to Dominique's point, our street is a lot like the street at the end of the Cooper Street Bridge. I'm not sure behind the church. I'm not sure the name of the street, but that's also sort of a cut through street. And it's it has a blind hill. It has a blind curve, and there are curved slow signs, numerous slow signs there. So from what I'm hearing, that we don't meet the speed data criteria, that would be the reason not to be putting these slow signs or dangerous curve signs or blind hill signs. Yeah, and maybe that's the reason why that traffic calming is not being done, because the speed data looks normal. But
Yeah, everyone over there has slow, or they have those little green guys with the signs out. You see it all over there, all the time.
and drivers seem to
Because people are going to the commuter rail, cutting over to the Melrose commuter rail, and people going up to Spring Street. It's so busy. And I can understand they're getting cut through and they're probably speeding down there and there's no sidewalks.
All right,
so
thank you.
drivers seem to respond well to that, you know. But it's also a street where you can't gain too much speed, where on Pine Street you probably can.
All right, thank
So
you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, I think we should table this for now. We really don't have a whole lot of consensus, Bill, as to what's been presented besides the vegetation and exploring maybe future ways to add a berm and things like that. So I think we should table this for now and move on to item number 8, unless anybody has any objection from traffic advisory.
Lieutenant Anderson, what is the next steps here? Can you give us specific next steps?
The next steps would be for engineering to see if there's anything on their end that can be presented back to us. And if you have any recommendations, please email them.
Is it possible that a form of what has been presented already with the stop signs would pass through, whether it's a 4-way or a different configuration?
I'm not hearing consensus among anyone here for that, but I'm going to just leave this for traffic advisory right now. And if anybody has a motion to make, they can make it. If not, we need to move on to our next agenda item.
Joe, if are we all in consensus about the vegetation clearing though? Is that something that
that
could
I don't know that we
advance?
really need a vote on that.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not pushing everything off, because I think we're all in consensus on that.
Nope, good point. Good point. I meant for the more difficult components.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to close out this agenda item for now. Move on to item number 8, the vulnerable use of 4-foot safe passing signs. So, Bill, this came from one of our town councilors, I believe, to explore locations in town where we could possibly install the new warning signs or advisory signs for the new vulnerable user law, which requires 4 feet to pass vulnerable users, including pedestrians and cyclists and the like. So I believe your team did come up with some potential locations, and I really like the location. So.
Yeah. So so we received a request from Council Chrisley to take a look at installing the 4-foot 4-foot to pass bike signs. So my proposal at this point would be to install them at the entrances to the town. So I've identified the locations. There are about a total of, where is my memo? There is a total of about 15 of these to be installed. One of the roads is above, it has the 35 mile an hour speed limit, so it would be the larger, all the other ones would be the smaller. Your packet outlines all the locations. And I think what I'd like to do is to have a vote that would only have them installed there. One of the things I don't want to see is these being requested all over town, because I think we'd be starting to run into some sign pollution type situations. And
Yeah, over signage is an issue. We want people to see a sign and know that it means something, and it's not clouded by 4 other signs in each direction.
Right, and so just so you folks know, some other communities have been using this kind of same approach. So I think I think this makes a lot of sense. And just to be clear on like other locations, if we were to consider those, anything that would have a bike accommodation to it, so bike lane / shared use path, any of those types of things, they wouldn't be recommended on those streets anyway. That's MassDOT's guidance. So I think this is the cleanest way to do it, and pretty consistent with peer communities.
All right, I like it. Anybody from Traffic Advisory have any comments or input?
Just information for people. I mean, how would you enforce this?
We enforce it either when there's an accident, obviously, like we would if somebody went through a stop sign and hit a car and they violated their right of way. So we would enforce it by citation, or if we saw somebody that wasn't safely passing a pedestrian or a cyclist and they were, well within 4 feet, they would be stopped and potentially cited. So yeah, it's definitely enforceable. I think it's been getting some good publicity. I see them in other towns. I like it. I like locations. I think it all makes sense. Matt, anything for us? It's pretty straightforward, but
No, I agree. I mean, I started thinking about other locations, but it makes sense to keep it to the entrances. Otherwise, there's no way to sort of stop where you would start putting these things in. So we would get into that sign pollution.
Yep. No, I agree. Anybody else from Traffic Advisory before I open it up to public comment? All right. Anybody from the public have any comments on this agenda item number 8? If you could raise your hand, state your name and address. Final call for public comment. All right. I would like to make a motion that we install motorists give 4 feet to pass warning signs in the following locations: Vernon Street near the Linfield line, Lowell Street by the Rotary, North Ave near Route 95, exit 57, Parker Road near the Reading line, Prospect Street near the Stoneham line, Albion Street near the Stoneham line, Forest Street near the Stoneham line, Spring Street near the Stoneham line, Greenwood Street near the Melrose line, Ashland Street near the Melrose line, Main Street near the Melrose line in Greenwood, Farm Street near the Saugus line, Water Street near the Saugus line, and Salem Street near the Linfield line. All the signage would be consistent, with the exception of the 35 mile an hour signs would be the 24-inch by 30-inch signs, or strike that 30 by 36-inch signs. The rest would be 24 by 30.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. We will send that to Town Council. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is the Mystic Highlands Greenway signage, discussing the shared street signage. And I think I put potential pavement markings because in your email, Bill, I wasn't sure you had made a comment about, whether certain areas might need pavement markings. So I just included that, but I'm not sure if that's actually.
Yeah, with the proposal that we brought forth, we decided not to include it at this point. It's something we can deploy in the future. A couple of these spots are planned for paving and whatnot, and anyway, we'd be looking to do sections of it. But a lot of this is in neighborhoods, and I don't really see if it's really necessary, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So basically, another request from Councilor Chrisley to advance portions of our bike and ped plan that was approved by the council back in early 24. Final draft was was posted in December 24. This is the Mystic Highlands Greenway portion, so regional corridor that's extending from Malden up to Lake Hugh and then extends also over to Stoneham. This would propose the installation of 76 signs throughout town. Most of them going to be on existing posts and poles, at a bunch of intersections. The most amount of them really are in this kind of off the main line corridor by the Melrose line, where we kind of get off of Main Street and sneak through some back roads. Aside from that, there's a few straightaway signs that are installed as well, but in your packet you have the full list of where they are with the type of arrow and how this would be done. These signs have been procured by the Mystic Highlands Greenway Coalition, which we are a member of, and they've been deployed in several other communities already. So Stoneham has their signs installed. Melrose has done it in their town. I believe Malden has as well. So I think we are the last of them, but it was received through a grant at the state level. And basically the signs are ready to go up. Public Works would install them if we're in agreement to move forward with this.
How large are the signs? I didn't see that in the packet.
They're essentially like a parking sign size, a little bit larger, but like about that size. So they're pretty small. I'd imagine they'd be going on most of our street signs, honestly, is where they'd be. And then along the run, if we have, existing posts and poles, some of them going on telephone poles, but the majority are going to be on the existing signage and signposts that we already have. And the intent is just to give the route of the Mystic Highlands.
I don't know how else you do that without signage, and it seems like since there isn't a real straightforward path like some other communities where it's like obvious that you're on that path for quite a distance, it's just 76 signs to me seems to be a bit much, especially considering we lack some wayfinding signs in town and some consistency with that for
just our town stuff, right? Yeah,
for our town stuff. So now if we add that in the future, we've also had a difficult time having signage like no throughway at dead-end street signs approved in town when they are in fact a dead-end street, and requests came from residents. So, but this is coming from town council, so it's likely to be approved by town council, I would assume.
Well, one was saying, I mean, again, they did approve the bike and ped plan, which had these routes in there as part of it. So, there was some discussion when Erin and I were advancing that project that the council asked us to do. So as we were going through, we received a bunch of questions about the kind of the route and how this all would work. And that was approved without any modifications to the route. So, I mean, I think this was inevitable that this would happen at some point. I mean, I definitely highlighted at one of the town council meetings when I was presenting. So, I agree that 76 signs are a lot. I'm glad we're not buying them, and it's kind of what unfortunately it is what it is.
Yep. Okay. Any other members of TAC have any comments or input? Are there any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the Mystic Highlands Greenway signage as presented and within the memo provided to the TAC.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain from this one. I'm really not sure what I think. To be honest with you, the 76 signs is, I don't know. I get that you need wayfinding signs. I think we're becoming Seinfeld, and
I need that little funky bass line. Seinfeld. I like that.
Maybe it's the resistance that was met with other signs that also made sense. So I'm going to abstain from this. So all others are in favor.
Yeah.
All right. The motion passes for the 76 signs to be installed. Next,
go to the council as well, right, Joe?
This will go to the council as well. Correct. All right. Next is item number 10, the comprehensive downtown improvement presentation. Bill, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so our consultant Ty and Bond is here to present updates and kind of just give a status of our portion of our Envision project. So if some of you may recall from back, I want to say 2 years ago now, we saw some plans from VHB. Since we've advanced the project, that whole Envision project as one massive project was just too big to be approved at the state level for funding. So we split that up into two projects. This is the portion that will be dovetailed with the rail to trail. So this has the rail to trail, Water Street up to downtown, from the rail to trail to downtown, and then from Water Street, Main Street from Water Street to North Ave. It's on the tip for fiscal 28 at this point, and Ty and Bond will give a brief presentation to kind of talk about where we are, and then highlighting really what some of the major changes are between what we saw previously and what what we'd see for actual physical changes on the roadways.
All right, thank you, Bill. My name is Justin Kerwitz. I'm with Ty and Bond. I'm the project manager here for the comprehensive downtown improvements. I'm also joined by Bill Meritz, who's our transportation business line leader, and Will Malnikoff, who is our lead roadway designer. So I'll share my screen here with the presentation and just walk through this briefly, and then I'll be able to answer any questions as we go. So just looking at what we'll talk about today, the study area in the background, some of the current design that's happening, the updates like Bill had mentioned from the previous design, some of the next steps, our schedule, and then we can open up for discussion and questions at the end. So this is our project area. You'll see in the red, we have our roadway limits, which include Main Street from the intersection with North Ave and Nahant all the way up to West Water Street. We do go up to the intersection with Lincoln Street, where we'll meet the VHB project that continues to the north. It also does a dog leg here down Water Street to the intersection with Wakefield Ave. And then also included here is a parking lot that we'll discuss as we get further into this, the public parking lot on the corner of Lincoln Street and Main Street.
Just blow that picture up a little.
Don't know if I can. I can try and get out of. Let me see if I can do this. Does that help?
You're not sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Does this help?
Yeah, it's better than.
So like I was saying, there's the intersection here from North Ave all the way up to Water Street, Water Street from Main Street all the way to Wakefield Avenue, and then the parking lot here on the corner of Lincoln Street and Main Street. There's also 4 signalized intersections that exist today at North Ave and Nahant Street, Water Street and Main Street, Water Street and Crescent Street, and then Water Street and Vernon Street. As you'll see here in the blue outline, this is the rail trail section. So it starts right at the intersection or right across the street from Richardson and Bennett Street, and it runs all the way up the rail trail. Sorry, I'm going to slide over. All the way up, crossing up to Foster's Lane. And you'll see there's yellow outlines here. That's our proposed boring location. So as part of this, we'll discuss a little bit later in this presentation about the boardwalk sections, but there's proposed soil borings out here to understand what the soil types are to incorporate into our foundation design for that boardwalk section. So really, I'll jump into the next section here. Am I still sharing, or did I lose everyone?
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So just a little background on this. The roadway section is approximately half a mile long on Main Street and about 2.2 miles long on Water Street. We're reconstructing 3 signalized intersections: Main Street, North Ave, and Nahant, Main Street, Water Street, and West Water Street, and then Water Street and Vernon Street. The intersection of Water Street and Crescent Street does not meet signal warrants, therefore that signal cannot be maintained as part of this project, so that will be coming out of the project. There's a combination of different pedestrian and bicycle accommodations throughout the project. We have the use of a shared use path, off-road separated bicycle lanes as we get further north on Main Street, on-road buffered bicycle lanes on Water Street, and then sidewalks as well. As part of the project, we'll update on-street parking and street lighting design, matching the Albion Street that was just recently done for street lighting. There'll be landscaped median islands along Main Street in the area of the Galvin Middle School. And then we will connect to that Main Street project to the north. So at about Lincoln Street, those are where the two projects will meet one another.
All the signals will be fully ADA compliant?
Yes, all the signals will be fully ADA compliant, new ramps, new accessible pedestrian buttons, all new signalized.
Chirpers?
Yes, yep, you'll have the locator tone for each of the push buttons there, the little beep, and then the audible and vibrotactile push buttons to signify for low vision and low hearing pedestrians and bicyclists.
Justin, can we go back to Water and Crescent? When you say it doesn't meet the warrant and won't be maintained, do you mean the signal will be eliminated or just won't be part of this whole
The
project?
signal will be eliminated.
So what would go there? Stop controls?
It would be under stop control. Stop control for Crescent Street and free flow for Water Street.
And probably a stop control for the exit driveway for, I think it's 27 or 37 Water Street there as well.
Correct, yes.
Well, just as a heads up, 27 and 37 Water Street, I was reading the decision for that project, and they're supposed to have, actually, that's supposed to be turned into an entrance only when this project moves forward. And Justin, that's something you're not aware of yet, but you'll be getting a decision from a project that happened. So there's supposed to be a new crossing created there. But I don't know if that ever went to Mass DOT and discussed, but something that we have to look at. Obviously, I think we probably want to have some dialogue with the fire department on the removal of that signal. Obviously, at Crescent and Water. I'm guessing that they're not going to be too pleased on that. I don't know about you folks over there, because obviously that backs up. It's difficult to get through.
I think we're going to see an increase in crashes there. I think what I would recommend to be considered, Bill, if there is no way to meet that warrant for a signal, we would likely have to eliminate a little bit of parking from 48 Water Street from the front there because there's some visibility issues if you didn't have a green light there and you were just going based off of whether the cars are coming or not. I think it's a consideration. As much as I hate to eliminate parking there because I know it's well utilized by some of the residents there, but there's a roaming house right there, so it would be tough. I just something for you to put on your radar. And then Justin, as far as the reconfiguration of the signals for Main Water and West Water, what's the plan there? Because we see a lot of conflict points with vehicles turning southbound from Water Street onto Main Street, and they're in direct conflict with vehicles that are turning northbound from West Water Street, and then those that are traveling east across the intersection, and then it ends up being almost like two lanes in both directions of people that are queued up trying to take a left, those going around, create kind of a middle lane to go across West Water Street. So would there be a protected phase there, or how would that work?
Yeah, so as we stand today, and we can discuss when we look at the road plan, but we're shifting the roadway more south. So right now there's a significant offset there. Or I wouldn't say significant, but there's an offset there. So those conflicting left turns or through movements, they have that offset. They already have to make a zigzag movement to get across the intersection.
Yep.
With the redesign, with the new design that's in the plans, that brings that closer together, so you don't have that larger gap.
Okay.
So the ability there to bring it closer, further south on the Water Street approach, gives you a better straight shot across there.
Okay.
There's additional methods to split phase where you'd have Water Street and West Water Street have their own separate phase protected, but that does significantly impact operations at the intersection. So our goal here was to realign them better so they go across from each other rather than introduce more delay at the intersection, more queuing or backups.
All right, thank you.
Were they still thinking about moving the bus stop in front of farmland further south down Main Street?
Yes, yeah. Trying to get the goal here is to try and get the bus stop out of the intersection as best as we can. Buses stopping within intersections, that adds to delay, it adds to confusion with drivers where they're trying to make movements through the intersection. So the goal or the preferred alternative for bus stops is really to put them far side. And what I mean by that is the bus gets through the intersection, stops, and then continues on, as opposed to stopping in the intersection or stopping near side, which is before the stop line at the intersection. That way, buses are able to get through, pick up their passengers, and not really delay. If you have a green light and the bus stops at the stop line, you're backing up traffic unnecessarily. But in all these bus stops along the corridor, buses will have opportunities to pull out of the travel lane, so they're not blocking a through lane of traffic. Any other questions before we continue?
Nope.
Okay. Just switching to the rail trail here, that runs again from Main Street to Foster's Lane. It's approximately 1.5 miles long. It has crossings at 6 locations at Main Street, Richardson Street, Water Street, New Salem, Salem, and Lowell Street. It's going to range from 10 to 12 feet wide. And like I mentioned before, it has the 2 elevated boardwalk segments. So approximately 1,600 feet of rail trail is going to be a boardwalk segment. And you'll see that typical detail on the right here. It's elevated. It's elevated. It'll be on micropile foundations. And you know, the final design of what it will look like is still to be determined at this stage. But some timber posts and timber decking is what we're looking at currently. But that is still throughout the design process that can change. But that'll be coordinated with the town and MassDOT. And then additionally, there's 3 parking lots that'll be added as part of the project. Richardson Street, Water Street, and Vernon Street will all provide access to those parking lots. The project history here, like Bill had mentioned before, part of this project was originally designed for the roadway segment as part of the overall Main Street design that was presented by VHB. It was split out to reduce size and cost. So the portion south here that's presented today was the half that was broken out and included in this project. There was also a rail trail that was originally combined with the Linfield and Wakefield rail trail. It extended to the PB Town line, and that was designed by the former WorldTech and Beta Group. It was again split out to reduce size and cost and the permitting effort, and then also the lack of commitment from Linfield. So both of these smaller projects, the southern half of Main Street and the rail trail portion in Wakefield, are combined into the current project you see today, and that's currently designed by Time Bond. So to date, some of the key things that have happened prior to this meeting, the over-the-shoulder review, which is really like a pre-preliminary design submission to MassDOT, that was made in March of 2025. A role plan for the entire project limits, the estimate for construction, and then the draft design justification workbook. That was all submitted to MassDOT. We met with them, with the town, and Time Bond to review what they had. They had some comments. We incorporated some of that comments into discussion, and that's into the current design you see today. We updated the survey, did a field walk out there to review what was there since the survey was done prior. Compiled a list of the updates needed, and that was sent back to Time Bond to incorporate into our design file. Recently, the rail trail clearing has begun. And it's very minor. Not looking to make major clearing out there due to permitting and just generally trying to keep as much of the existing conditions the same until construction starts. But that's needed to be able to fit a boring rig down that to take the borings to understand what the foundations for the rail trail boardwalk section will need to be. So that's occurring right now from Salem Street all the way up to Foster's Lane. And then today, we're presenting the conceptual role plan and the estimate to the Traffic Advisory Committee, hopefully answering any questions you have and discussing the next steps. So our current design sent along to the committee was the role plan detailing the entirety of the project. Our preliminary estimate is $32.3 million for construction. That includes several different contingencies. Construction for 20% of that deals with any kind of items that are not included. Some of the smaller, less less key items that are done at the pre 25 or 25% the preliminary design phase. So there's some things that are included in that may not be included in the original estimate, and not, once we get into detailed design, they'll show up. So we like to carry a contingency for that as 20%. Administration, so contractually, MassDOT looks to have about 5% contingency for the administration of the contract as we get further into construction. Traffic police, so your police details at 4% of the construction cost. Utility relocations, while we don't anticipate a significant number of utility relocations out here, MassDOT does have their policy where if we need to relocate a utility, they have a 50% reimbursement. So if the utility company relocates their utility as needed prior to the start of construction, they'll see that 50% reimbursement. So we try to carry 3% for that. Again, that can fluctuate up and down, but in general, we try to keep 3% for projects where there's not a significant amount of utilities. And then inflation. I mean, we're talking about, as Bill mentioned, 2028 as a construction start. So we're trying to make sure that this estimate that we put in front of MassDOT, in front of the MPO, that they see that, what the present day is right now, but also what it's going to be like when it's 2028. So 4% per year for that. So that's where that $32.3 million comes from. That draft design justification workbook I mentioned that we submitted to MassDOT, that is a detailed workbook. It has a bunch of design features. MassDOT requires that you go through the entire process, identify all the controlling criteria that exist in the project, and justify which means and methods you've used and which design and why the design was chosen for certain things like pedestrians, bicycles, transit, horizontal roadway curves, things along that nature. So currently in the project, we have one request for design exception, and that's the removal of the Water Street mid-block crosswalk at the Bank of America. There's two intersections really close by there, and parking on streets. So that was one of the removals to just keep the crosswalk spacing a little bit more spread out as opposed to crosswalk after crosswalk. So just getting into some of the design updates, there's other smaller designs that have had other smaller design updates that have happened, but we wanted to hit the major ones in the next few slides. One of the things that existed in the prior design was a 14-foot lane heading southbound on Main Street. You'll see this is one of the entrances to the Galvin Middle School over here. You have Bennett Street over here to the north is to the right on this photo. So instead of the 14-foot lane, MassDOT has required that we change that to an 11-foot lane, and we provided that 3-foot buffer that's painted along this edge here. So I can actually, let me just do this. So we have that 3-foot buffer here. So you have your parking lane, the travel lane, so the 11-foot travel lane and a 3-foot painted buffer before you get to the 8-foot parking lane.
Where would the crossing be? Would it be in between those two islands? Crosswalk?
It's actually further down, Joe. The right of the screen. This is the second entrance.
Yeah, this is that smaller entrance to the. I believe the school is up here. The school's down here, and then the fields are up here.
Okay.
No, that's actually not right. So it's so where the painted buffer is, that's like the playground. So that the basketball courts and stuff in the front.
Yep.
And then to the left here, if you go over a couple of driveways, that's Jiffy Lube that you're seeing.
Okay.
The entrance, like where it says Main Street, that's the Jiffy Lube entrance.
Got it.
Gotcha.
On Water Street, the bicycle accommodations. So originally in the previous design, there was a shared use path that ran on the north side of Water Street. Given the constraints of the roadway, there's a bunch of buildings. You'll see the buildings at the back of sidewalk here. There's a lot of trees that exist. There's building faces on the south side. So widening of the corridor to provide a wider area for that shared use path. Originally, the shared use path was right up to the curb. MassDOT, I put in quotations, prefers to see a buffer space between the shared use path and the edge of curb. Meaning the buffer space, meaning an area, whether it's concrete, it's brick, it's grass, some sort of strip between that shared use path and the roadway. So the preference is that something be there. They try to have a 5-foot, though they're amenable to 3 or 4 feet. But even in that situation, we are pushing impacts to buildings. So in lieu of that, provided on road is a 5-foot bicycle lane with a 2-foot painted buffer. So you'll have a 5-foot bicycle lane from the start of the project, running in both directions with a 2-foot buffer that separates between the vehicular traffic and the bike lane. This is one that we've been back and forth with the town. This has actually come up as part of the over-the-shoulder discussion. Sunny Noto's parking lot. There was a fatality that happened recently with a vehicle that was pulling out of this parking, actually not Sunny Noto's, but this parking lot here. They pulled out of the driveway and struck a pedestrian in the sidewalk. As part of that, the original design had one wide open driveway to accommodate the parking in this parking lot. So you could pull in. It's really, there's really no definition of what the sidewalk area is and what the parking lot is. So under this proposed design here, we're narrowing up or reducing the driveway width to a more reasonable width, providing one-way operation. So you'd come in into the parking lot, traverse eastbound, and then exit through this driveway. In order to do so, there's some revisions to the angle on the parking, and that results in the reduction of 4 spaces in their parking lot. It does improve delineation of the sidewalk. So what you're seeing here, this sidewalk section would be cement concrete, while the area back here would all be asphalt or HMA or hot top. So it really gives that definition of what is the pedestrian pathway and what you're looking for conflict or where you can expect a pedestrian, as opposed to a wide open area here that's all asphalt pavement. Again, this is not a finalized discussion. There's been no discussion with the property owner just yet, but based on the discussion with MassDOT and the over the shoulder, they're pretty adamant that they want to have some sort of delineation and close up this driveway. So in order to keep parking there and do whatever we can to maximize what parking can be provided, this is one of the potential solutions to that. So discussions with the business owner, with the town, will be ongoing, but this is one of the potential solutions that's shown at this point in time. And then the parking lot, for the public parking lot on Lincoln Street, so it really abuts Lincoln Street, Water Street, and Main Street's over here to the left. This has been redesigned and increased to maximize parking in this section and also incorporate some of the parking that we are losing on Water Street and Main Street due to the angle spots turning into parallel spots. So in this case, we're still maintaining the Lincoln Street one-way approach westbound. We're adding 8 additional spaces into the parking lot while maintaining, there's 3 current accessible parking spaces. We're maintaining that as part of this redesign. We're increasing the aisle width to 24 feet, so that allows 2-way operation all throughout the parking lot in the aisles, but we're maintaining that one-way northbound for Smith Street. There is width to provide potential 2-way operation, but we do know that there's also some parking that exists on this curb line here. So there's still some fluctuation in this design, but essentially you're adding 8 additional spaces into this parking lot to help mitigate the loss that you have along the roadways. We also have the addition of landscape islands in the middle for, a little bit of beautification in a public parking lot.
Justin, one quick question on that one, right? So the removal of the of Smith Street, the parking there, right? That's not necessarily that doesn't have to happen, right? I mean, we have the width to have that being because it's a one-way
Yes,
roadway.
you would just be limiting it to one way. And right now there's signs out there that state 2-hour parking. There's no designated spaces or no striped spaces out there. That's something that could be formalized as part of this.
I think I'm going to recommend we do that for sure. So I mean, we don't want to lose. I mean, if we're gaining 8 spaces in the parking lot, we're not going to lose 8 spaces on the roadway. The goal here is to offset what we're losing in Water Street. So let's make sure that when we go to the town council with this, that we have that built into it.
And just to touch upon parking, as we're talking about this here, looking at the 3 major components here, Main Street, Water Street, and the parking lot, When we look at Main Street, both sides of Main Street, what's proposed and what is existing, there's a loss of one space along Main Street. Water Street's a little bit heavier where we're losing two spaces. And then when you really factor in the spaces that are able to be parked in the parking lot, so we have a parking lot that can have a capacity that we're gaining the 8 spaces, but when you look at the cars that could park along this, we're actually gaining 1 space overall in the entire project limits. So we're not losing parking in terms of the overall project. We're actually gaining 1 space. So while it does look like we are losing spaces along the main roads, the public parking lot will accommodate and be able to make up for that loss.
But if we're putting the parking back though, then we're gaining 5 or 6 spaces. Back in Smith Street.
We may be gaining 2 or 3 at the end of the day. I think there's, when we actually sketch these parking lots out, because there is a driveway here. So some of that is lost. I know it's not shown on this conceptual plan right now. But there is some,
right. So people aren't really parking there now per se. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, you know, if there's 5 spaces, for example, I mean, I think that we're still going to have 5 spaces there. So we wouldn't be a net like 1 space. I think we're going to be a net 4 or 5 spaces if I'm doing my math right.
Yeah. As long as we maintain the one-way operation for Smith Street, yes, we can sketch that in. We can you know, make sure that we keep it away from intersections for visibility and sight lines, and we'll sketch that in, and we'll get an exact number before town council.
Great, beautiful, thanks.
Justin, just to go back a little bit, since we're still in that neighborhood of Water and Crescent, is there any way to revisit that warrant, considering and to take into consideration the fact that police and fire apparatus use that as a main road?
So that, yeah, we had that conversation, Bill and myself. There's precedent that's been set when with other projects in the area and other communities where the fire station and police are close to an intersection that don't necessarily, the warrant's not met. You know, you could justify that. It's a discussion that can be had with MassDOT. It's tough when the fire department's not, you know, within, you know, even 500 feet of the intersection. It's really pushing it further and further back. But I think that would be something that a meeting between MassDOT, the town, Time and Bond, but including the police and fire, to be at that meeting to express the need for that signal. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but at this point, the warrant that is really what really depicts whether or not that stays, it's not even close to being met with the traffic volumes out there.
Yeah, I also think, well, first of all, I would just ask that you push for that meeting, for police and fire to be a part of it. Second, I see potential crashes at that intersection outside of the need for police and fire apparatus to respond there. You know, if we're already starting to consider the potential to eliminate parking spaces for sightline issues there, then I think it just kind of it may justify the need for it, even though the warrant may not technically be met. So I just think we need to have a bigger conversation on that. Eliminating that might really cause a few issues there. So if you could make sure that meeting happens. I understand that they have their warrant and their way of doing things, but I think it's something that we would really want to consider keeping. Chief Sullivan, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to add that the elimination of the lights there, I think what you're going to find is that during peak traffic periods, the cars, there'll be a straight line of cars across the end of Crescent Street, which is going to obviously pose an obstruction for us if we're responding down Water Street eastbound towards Saugus, for instance. We're not going to be able to get out of Crescent Street. Yes, we can use sirens and so forth, but there's going to be a delay. Where at least now, where there's a set of lights there, theoretically anyway, someone's going to stop at the stop sign that where the light is, and there'll be a gap that will allow us to get through. So that's my primary concern with the set of lights there.
Matt Gilly.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the warrant as well. I just pulled up an old traffic study from 48 Crescent Street, which we looked at multiple times. And I don't know what the volumes are now. These are from 2021. The peak hour volumes definitely look like they're in the range of meeting warrants. Is it an 8-hour warrant that it's not meeting, Justin?
It's
Is
not it's not meeting any warrants based on the counts that we have from 2023.
Okay. Yes, I'm just looking at 117 lefts during the PM in this traffic study, and over 1,000 on the main line. So it's going to be tough if if those volumes do get to those levels. That's going to be tough to get out of there. And then I'm wondering if people are going to start cutting through other streets if they can't get out of Crescent without a light there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, we could also consider, Justin, right, potentially if they won't fund it. I mean, it's still these are still town roads. Nothing that says that we can't do it as non-participatory, right? I mean, worst case scenario.
That I don't believe that's gonna fly with them. Don't quote me on that. I just, in terms of installing a signal that doesn't meet warrants, that MassDOT's going to construct even as non-participating.
I'm not saying if they don't. What if we construct it then? I mean, worst case scenario, we can figure out a way to keep it. I think, but we definitely need to have the discussion with MassDOT.
Yeah, I think the best step forward is, ensuring that we set up that meeting with MassDOT to understand would they accept the rationale or the justification of the fire station location to be able to get out of Crescent Street. And if that justification is there, then this is all a moot point. But I'll work on my end to set up that meeting with the town and MassDOT to make sure that we have that discussion and get the feel for the room with MassDOT, because otherwise then we're looking at different alternatives from there.
For sure.
Okay, thank you.
Lieutenant Anderson, I think you might look at that. I call it a driveway coming out between Sunny No-Nos. The history of accidents there. I think there's been quite a few.
Well, that's what Bill was talking about. He's under the impression that that's supposed to be a one-way when this project goes through. That's supposed to be a one-way in.
I don't know if that's the lights too.
Say it again.
I don't know if that is synced with the lights.
It is. Yeah, they have a light. So, I mean, that can be eliminated, honestly, with the intent was that because they back up to the Realtor Trail, that there'd be a crossing at the Realtor Trail to allow them to do that. So that their decision, for the project required that to be built in the future when it became available with the Realtor Trail. So they have to accommodate, their site has to be, modified to accommodate the new crossing.
All right, Justin, continue on. Sorry, I threw that wrench in there.
No worries.
That's what we're here for, right, Joe?
So some additional design updates. Like we mentioned, we just talked about the Water and Crescent Street intersection. The Water Street intersection, the Water Street Eastern project limit was changed from Cyrus Street. It was brought back west to Wakefield Ave. To trim up some of the project and also to keep the project from going to another signalized intersection. The potential additional updates, based on that over-the-shoulder meeting with MassDOT and the design, the Main Street North Ave and the Hunt intersection, conversion of that southbound through lane to a dedicated right turn lane. So currently southbound to the intersection, you have a dedicated left turn lane, a through lane, and then a shared through right lane. It was brought up that there could be the conversion of that rightmost through lane to a right turn only lane. So now you'd have a left, a through, and a right for the 3 lanes there. That does see a little bit more queuing along the southbound section, especially in the morning. But that was something that MassDOT had brought up as a potential solution. That's something that wanted to bring up here as opposed to bringing 2 lanes across the intersection to merge back down. So essentially that would remove a travel lane on the south side of the intersection. So you'd have just 1 through lane going forward, and that could result in the extension of the shared use path all the way to Franklin Street. So you bring the shared use path across North Ave and bring it down to the intersection of Franklin Street and then terminate it there with the crosswalk that exists today. So next steps, the rail trail borings, like we mentioned, they're looking to be scheduled once that clearing happens. So within the next month or so, looking to get out there and get mobilized to take those borings. New to MassDOT in the recent years is a public information meeting. They like to do this before any 25% design goes into MassDOT. So this is an opportunity for a public meeting for the residents and towns folk to be able to understand what's going on, get a refresher on the project, and also be able to ask questions and give input towards the design. So when you go to the next step, which is a design public hearing, it's not the first time they're seeing the project, and it's not that there's a design in front of them where it's already been reviewed by MassDOT, and sometimes it's more of a process here to inform them ahead of time than give them a design public hearing where everything's been reviewed and agreed upon before they get input. So that's happening that's scheduled for September 2025. The design submission going in November of this year. So that'll include the design plans, the right-of-way plans, estimate and related documents. And then from there, once that's submitted, MassDOT will have 90 days to review that and provide comments back to the town and Time Bond to respond to. Next year in the spring, we'll be looking at a utility coordination meeting. So they'll take the plans that were submitted, get together all the private utility companies and public utility companies and go for a field walk, discuss any kind of relocations and any issues or conflicts. And then in the summer of next year, looking at the design public hearing, which is that really what's been, referred to as the approval of the 25% design. When you get to that stage, you're giving a presentation to the public and showing them what you have for the project. And that would be hosted by MassDOT along with the public informational meeting in September. So looking at that, looking at the proposed design schedule, the 25% in November of this year, a public hearing in the summer of next year, looking at the next step of 75% design being in the winter of 2026, the 100% design in the summer of 2025, and then our final submission in the fall of summer of 2027, and then the final submission in the fall of 2027, with an advertisement for the project in the spring of 2028, and then the anticipation that construction will start in the summer of 2028. We're anticipating approximately 2 years for construction for this, so looking at a completion in spring of 2030. Again, these are all approximate. They can change depending on how quickly we can get rail trail borings done, get that submission in, and so they're able to fluctuate a little bit, but this is the tentative schedule that's been submitted to MassDOT. And then one other thing that we'll talk about here, there was discussion internally at MassDOT and has been discussed with the town through Bill and Time Bond, myself, of splitting the project even further. I know this project was actually combination of 2 split projects, but discussing the 2 projects here in sense of they're 2 really different construction methods. You've got the roadway section for Main Street and Water Street, and then a separate project could be the rail trail. It does split out that cost. It does reduce it. Right now, we're looking at $32 million combined for the project. That would bring it, to 20 million and 13 million respectively for the roadway and rail trail. And part of the reason for that is they're talking about different construction methods out here being, one's a rail trail, one you can do completely off-road. You're not looking while you're trucking materials in and out. You really have dedicated access to the project site, which could go a little bit faster. And, but conversely, there is a lot more permitting to be done for the rail trail as opposed to the roadway. And then the impacts to the design effort for this, if it were to split into 2 projects, it would still go forward as the same design. Time Bond would still progress with both the projects at a similar manner, but it would add additional submissions, additional documents, meetings. Like we mentioned before, all the submissions on the last slide, you're looking at 2 of those submissions for each of these, 1 for each project. So that's where it becomes more of an effort than just 1 project combined.
Yeah,
Again, that's not set in stone or anything along those lines. It's been discussed by MassDOT that this project will go to 25% design and be submitted at 25, and then subsequent discussions will happen between the town, MassDOT, to determine what the next steps are going. So that's just wanted to put that out there to the committee, just to make sure that we're being transparent with discussions that have happened with MassDOT. And that's the end of it. I'm happy to answer any additional questions or discussions that haven't been answered already, haven't been asked.
Could you answer a question on the boardwalk section?
Sure.
At 1,600 feet, I believe.
Yep.
Will that be ADA compliant? In other words, if somebody in a wheelchair, will they be looking at a wall, or will it be a lower level that they can look out?
That is a design detail that has not been ironed out in terms of like a lookout area. But that's certainly something that could be at this point in time. The tallest section of that, the side rails, is 3.5 feet. So there is opportunity. That's more to meet ADA, just for the handrail and be able to accommodate pedestrians both in a wheelchair and walking. There's opportunities within this design to look at sections for that. But at this point, where everything designed in this project, including the boardwalk, the rail trail, and the roadway sections, will all be ADA compliant.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments from members of TAC? I will open it up to members of the public. If you have any questions or comments on this presentation, just raise your hand and state your name and address when I call you. Final call for public participation on agenda item number 10. Chief Sullivan.
Hi, I was just wondering if there was any provision for adding some kind of a marker on the path, for lack of a better description, like a mile marker, maybe every quarter-mile interval. So if somebody does have an emergency, we can, pinpoint where they are.
Yeah, Chief, we're going to do that. That's, yeah, Shinny, who was asking for that before he retired as well. So we're definitely doing that.
Okay. All right. Very good.
All right. Anybody else? Justin, unless you have any closing comments, we appreciate it. Look forward to more of the design.
No, that's all I have. I appreciate the committee's time to present this, and Bill, we can catch up after and determine the next steps going forward to town council.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, folks, so we're going to bring this to town council, kind of same presentation, adding in some of the comments that we had here, just so that they know, they're comfortable with the approach. And then we'll look at that pre-25 hearing with MassDOT fall. So hopefully in September is the goal, and we can hit that and just keep these guys moving and get this project funded and built.
Sounds good. Excellent. Well, thank you, Justin. Appreciate it.
It's great. Thank you.
All.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Item number 11. So I think it is time to reorganize the Traffic Advisory Committee. I think it's been time for a while, but it's we've had a lot going on with TAC. We've turned much more into, I guess, an extension of the zoning board of appeals in a lot of ways. A lot of what we do is engineering based. We've made a lot of good improvements over the years, but it is starting to impact my ability to perform my primary role, and that's as a police lieutenant. So as you know, job of a police officer is far different than it used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago, and it continues to change. And being an administrative role, it's demanding. And this committee is an excellent committee. We've done great things. I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. But I can't do both. So my primary role definitely has to win. So I would like to step down into a liaison role and still remain a member of Traffic Advisory, but I would like to make a motion that Bill moves into the chair position. I think our function now has shifted over the years into, like I said, a little bit more of almost a subcommittee of the ZBA, and it's more of an engineering position, really. And I do not have an engineering background, and I was terrible in math. So I constantly defer to Bill and Matt, and they're great. They've taught me a lot. They've been able to not only teach me a lot about engineering, but kind of mesh the two, both the enforcement side and then what we see on the engineering side. And like Chief Scory told me when I took over, he said, "You are going to learn a lot about traffic you had no idea about." And it's true. On the enforcement side, we look at it in one way, but on the engineering side, there's a whole other perspective. So my motion would be to make Bill the chair of the Traffic Advisory Committee, and I would remain as liaison.
I'll second it to end the awkward silence.
Thanks, Matt. Any discussion on that? All right. Well,
Definitely want to thank you for your leadership. It's been great.
I appreciate you guys, and
I won't run as good of a meeting, Joe, that I can tell you.
what's that?
I don't know if I'm going to run as good of a meeting.
I hope they're not as long. If there's anything you can do that I haven't been able to do in the 6 years, is trim down the meetings. So I think you may get that done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do that, Joe. That's my first order of business.
Sometimes I'm a little too nice, and I allow people to talk for a little bit too long, and I put a little too much on the agenda. But it's tough. It's tough to get everybody together, and the agenda has it just continues to grow. So I think your men and women will definitely help to trim that down, and also know what you guys can accomplish. I don't know what you can accomplish on the DPW end. You have your own budget and your own priorities. So there's times I add things, and it's there's not even a glimmer of hope that they're going to get done because there's just too much going on in town. But
I mean, we're going to look for an actual funding mechanism. I mean, we're at the point now where the requests come in. It seems like every request ends up needing something, right? I mean, right now we're out of funds to even do traffic studies that we've discussed doing on North Ave, and the one that we were going to do on Crescent, and on Chestnut and Prospect. So, we just don't have the funds right now to do it. I think we need something as a standing capital item to allow these things to move forward. So that'll be the first or second order of business. The first one will be shortening the meetings.
Awesome. I will definitely attend as liaison if you shorten the meetings. All right. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. We will move on to item number 12. Any matters not anticipated for the agenda? Kathleen.
I just have a concern and question because I just don't know who the right people are to bring my questions to. So the big 40B on Nahant Street was recently approved. And my concern is pedestrian and vehicle safety as they start construction on Nahant Street, because we know that's a massive project. And, all kinds of pedestrian and driving concerns have been brought to Nahant Street under the current conditions. But when we have huge trucks in and out of there all day, I'm just wondering, again, maybe you can even tell me who I should bring my concerns to, but what steps are going to be taken to protect pedestrians and vehicle safety when that construction is going on, particularly when school opens, in another 6 weeks or whatever it is.
Well, anytime there's construction in town, they typically need either a road opening permit or a permit from the town. Bill's office gets those permits, and they are required to contact us at the police department, the fire department if necessary, and review what safety measures need to be taken. They will definitely have to hire adequate police details to accommodate not only the truck traffic but pedestrian traffic. And I assume it will require much more than your average police detail, just by the nature of the roadway, the concerns that we know about at Traffic Advisory, that you folks know about from living there. They are going to have significant police presence there to accommodate that. So that's essentially what will happen. But if you have any specific questions or concerns, just reach out to me individually, and then when it comes across my desk or the chief's desk here, we will talk with the development team and make sure that it gets done.
Yeah, like usually prior to like any of these big projects, we'll have a town staff like kind of kickoff meeting with the developer or actually the contractor, because the developer at this point is usually kind of out of the picture. So so we'll have a sit down with them. Usually it's the building commissioner, myself, my office, Joe will be there, the public works director. So we have a whole group of us that all talk about, you know, kind of facilitating the project and how that's going to happen and what protections they need to be thinking of. So it definitely gets done.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else?
Hello there.
Hello there.
This is Glenn Sampson. I don't know if I got cut off from the meeting earlier about the crosswalks and all the stop signs. I apologize if I'm interrupting something I'm not supposed to be talking about.
No problem.
You had that letter that I was asked you were going to read for my wife. I apologize. I asked you not to read it. If it's not out of turn, if it's possible, you could read it, because I'd love those gentlemen in the room to understand our aspect of it more than just
agenda item, but I will send it to the members of
okay.
traffic. But we closed that out as, you know, we couldn't really come to a specific resolution, so we had a couple of things that
Okay.
were
If you could pass that along to those guys, I'd be really appreciative. If they took a few minutes to read it, it'd mean a lot to us. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Definitely do that. All right, any other members of TAC have anything? There's one bill for potentially next meeting. I do have a list of signatures from Melrose Terrace that we just weren't able to get onto this agenda, and I believe they obtained signatures from everybody on the street.
Okay, that's good.
So
this is the no parking, right?
no parking near the corner. Yeah, that should. I don't want to say it should be an easy one because
I don't think it is an easy one, to be honest with you.
no.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they have signatures to present to the TAC for consideration. How's that?
Sounds good. Looking
I hear
forward to it.
the new chair is tough, so.
I've heard.
Yep. All right, everybody. I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
I have a quick one. Quick guy. I had emailed you about the possibility of getting rapid flashes at Crescent Street and Main Street, and it's an area where a lot of people cross over to the Common. 4th of July, the Promenade, you name it, Memorial Day. But we also have Brightview up there, which has disabled people crossing the street. Schoolhouse, and I know some of the, I think Munchkin's little school on Main Street also crosses over there. And look into the possibility of getting some kind of functional rapid flashes that they could cross over safely.
Okay, so I did get your email, and I am going to look at that because there's actually there's that intersection, then there's the mid-block cross right around the daycare as well, and they've been asking for them. So it's it's one of those. Which one gets it? Do they both get it? Where does it stop with the flashing beacons? So I think we need to look at it holistically and see what, really we have to have our own warrant, I think, Bill, for what, we're trying to develop that, but it's just, when you have 40 Bs on the hot that are 100 and something units, and you're going to hearings and mediations, there just simply isn't any time to come up with these policies. It would be helpful for us, but we're just stretched kind of thin. So
yeah, so I'm looking at that. So I think we'll be bringing that as an item. So RRFB policy, I think crosswalk policy as well, because we get a lot of those requests, and I don't really think we're kind of arbitrarily making decisions. So kind of get some parameters around what to do. So Matt, I may kick some of the stuff to you to talk about as well. But I guess some examples that we'll probably look at. So that might be on the next agenda, just as the policy discussion, and then we can add in and see how that aligns with the policy and where we end. And then the other one is the process, I think, for projects coming to us in notifications to people so that they know what's going on in their neighborhood and how that's going to happen. So that'll be a couple of things that I'm going to be looking to tweak in the early fall. So
sounds good.
Sounds good.
I had brought up to the Commission on Disabilities about the signal, so they were all in favor of it. But I'm sure that, a traffic engineer can look at a lot of different sight distances on that. But it's something that I think that would be needed for safety, and that's where everybody crosses to go to the
I
common.
think it makes sense. I'm not saying no by any stretch. So it's just you know, I think we want to start looking at these because they're, you know, at some point if you pop them up everywhere, they lose their function, right? You know, so we don't want to have them. We don't want to have 74 of those in town, right, Joe? So, you know, that would be
75 at this point. I'll abstain from that one as well. All right, everybody. I will adjourn the meeting at 10:46. Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend, folks.
Thank you.
Yep.
See you.